You can start welcoming the community, Omari.
We are in Facebook.
So I can unmute now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thought I was gonna hear the songs, but good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Hope all is well. Hope all is well. It is August 22nd, 2021, 7 a.m. We are in the midst of Hurricane Henry. This is awesome. I hope everybody has a great day, is having a great day, and is enjoying, what life is bringing us. Everybody is enjoying what life is bringing us today. Um, like I said, we're in the midst of Hurricane Henry. Rain's crazy out here in New York yesterday. This morning it's been pretty good. I'm figuring this is the quiet before the storm. But again, all of this is needed, and it's definitely fitting, just in terms of what we're going to be talking about and discussing today. And in terms of transition, in terms of weathering storms in order to grow. So welcome everybody, welcome Facebook group. Can't see you guys, but we know that you're there. We love you, appreciate your presence. Welcome everybody on Zoom. Hope everybody's doing well, and looking forward to the session. Looking forward to the session and everything that it has to bring. Adam, how you feel, brother? All right?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing well. I'm doing well, man. It's good to see you.
You too.
All right. Definitely. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna go ahead and get started. So today is the first week of Soul Food Week, and as an artist, I think that in my mind, at least, when we think of soul food, right, I'm thinking physical food. Like I'm thinking something that you eat, right? So why the hell are you on as an artist? But soul food, it's a lot. It's about not just about soul food in terms of the food that the South and our ancestors who resided in the South kind of coined, and the comfort that comes with eating these just delicious meals in terms of and eating these delicious meals, and then also in terms of being able to create something, especially just culinary, from the culinary aspect, something that is amazing and magical, and using and creating that from the scraps that we were given as slaves, and turning that into things that, or food specifically that is just garnered as high quality at this point in time. Just learning how to take what we have, take scraps, takes what was left,
Omari,
creating something magical out of it. Yes.
Yes.
It's a blessing, family. Good morning.
We know you haven't seen it. I know you're eager to share your process, and you're going into the food, going within. I feel you going within. But let's let everybody get all settled in, and let's start the morning off with a little song for soul food.
Gotcha.
Yes, let's go with some soul food here. See you on the other side of the video.
Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Stay woke. Stay woke. Stay woke. It's time to get up. Stay woke. Stay woke. Stay woke. It's time to get up. We're healing, we're dealing, we're growing. Together, releasing, we're teaching. Together, together, we're learning, discerning, we're striving. Together, together, we're leading, connecting, transforming. Together, together.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, John. I appreciate you. And again, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope all is well. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning. Good morning, our Zoom family. Good morning, our Woo Nation. Again, I just want to, reiterate the thanks and just appreciation of me being here and, allowing me in the space and, just also too, the consistency of, the Woo Nation and what you guys do on a daily basis. This is not easy to do this so consistently and just be on point with it every time. So thank you again for having me here. Thank you again for being present, and thank you for, being consistent, because that's, with anything, we all know that's one of the hardest things in life to do. So again, I want to kick this Soul Food Week off with, just something that is, I think to me, I think is really important in terms of creating, and understanding, and, we can get into the culinary arts, and there will be many different facilitators going to be talking about that throughout the course of the week. But, I think that, when we think about soul food specifically, we think about, food, so it's not necessarily something that me as an artist, like I don't, I cook, but at the same time, the thing is that the creation piece is the same in terms of doing something visual like I do, as opposed to something culinary that, again, a lot of our other facilitators will be discussing throughout the week, but creating from the soul, is the basis of all, so I think that, again, it's fitted, and I'm glad to kick off the week with just being able to identify what that creation process is, how that creation process looks for me, and, where it kind of comes from. And this is, what I'll be discussing today is partially things that happen innately, also some things that I've been able to discover through research, through practice, research and practice, and not just creating and arts and, the visual aspect, but also, the soul searching piece, and, just why we are here, and how we are able to kind of navigate this earth plane to the best of our abilities. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started and get this kicked off right away. So, and again, Facebook, I appreciate you guys being here, but of course I can see my Zoom family, so I will be shouting y'all out throughout the, this morning. So thank you, Cheryl, appreciate you. Stacy, I hope you are well. Naomi, Marie, Luis, Adam. I hope, again, thank you for being here. Everybody else, as you all come in, we will just have a great day, have a great morning, start off the morning right. So my creative process and how I feed my soul, through art it's a process, and it's a process that I've learned through pain. It's crazy because, they say that, a lot of artists are crazy, or to a certain extent, just in terms of what it is really though is about being in touch with, all aspects of yourself. Some people are just innately like that. Some people like myself have been thrusted into this type of thought process and engaging with my emotions and being able to take that energy and put it somewhere. So in my case, I put it on canvas, and my creation for the last 2 years have been kind of just driven from you know, my emotional state, the things that I've had to go through, you know, as an individual, the things that I have to go through as, you know, as a father, as a brother, as a, you know, a son, and being able to navigate new emotions that I never really were in touch with before or really had to be in touch with, you know. So that's where my art kind of comes from now. And I think that, you know, it's kind of obvious when you see it in terms, if you saw my timeline and my through line, you could see like, you know, the transitions of my life as a visual artist. And of course, you know, that being as, you know, as a person. So I'm gonna go talk about, you know, where from this standpoint, you know, how I go through my artistic process and what happens, you know, and try to make it as tangible, I guess, as possible. So what I want to do, what I want everybody to do right now is to just kind of sit with yourself, go in your mind, just think, you know, think about anything that comes up to the top of your mind, just think about it. We're going to do this exercise without speaking. You know, this is not something that's going to take us actually using our vocal cords in order to create sound. I just want you to think, right? So I'm going to give you guys a word. This word, I don't know if you all can see it. I hope you can. This word is consistency, and it might be backwards on, that's funny. It might be backwards on the screen, but the word is consistency, right? So I just want you to say that word in your mind. So I'm going to give you guys to the count of 3. And at the count of 3, you don't say it out loud, just in your mind, say the word consistency. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. All right, awesome. So at this point, I'm sure everybody has said the word in their mind. Now, the interesting part about this is that you said this word, right? You said the word consistency, and that word actually has a sound to it, right? So in our minds, when we're talking to ourselves, even though there are no vibrations created from our vocal cords, there is no sound emanating from our mouth and, you know, being transferred into our ears, we can actually hear ourselves say something without even saying it, right? We can say these things, and then at the same time, we can hear ourselves saying it, you know, which is crazy to me. So I say that to say there are 2 things that are happening when we speak specifically to ourselves, right? We have the ability to talk, and then we also have the ability to hear ourselves, which I think is very funny too, because when I speak, I hear like what I hear when I speak and then record myself, I hear something totally different I sound totally different from what I think I sound when I'm actually recorded, you know? So it's just very interesting how the mind, the body kind of works. You know, we are able to communicate with ourselves, and we're also able to have conversation with ourselves without actually speaking. And in essence, this is where everything starts, right? This is that beginning of soul food, right? This is how we create from a being that we're not necessarily seeing or necessarily tangible, but that we know is there, right? So, you know, what we do in terms of, you know, just dealing on this earth plane, you know, as we see ourselves, is that our, you know, dimension is really 3-dimensional, right? We see things that are tangible, right? We see up, we see down, we see left, we see right, you know, north, south, east, and west. In terms of like latitudes and longitudes, right? That's how we create this 3-dimensional life, you know. And then also too, you know, the thing that really keeps us grounded in this life is time, right? So we think north, south, east, west. We also think in terms of time, right? North, south, east, west, up, down, and then in time. And these are the things that drive us, right? Because these are the things that we see on a daily basis. This is what we have access to. This is what we, what we kind of, this is like our checkpoint pretty much, of, all right, I got to get this done at a certain time. I got to get this done. If I don't get this done, then this doesn't happen, and we consistently, we live in this type of a cycle, but we often forget to work in and out, right? We often forget to communicate with our inner being, with ourselves. And, what that means is that, we get caught up in this race where everything is kind of, everything is kind of based around our outer beings, when essentially it should be different. It should be the opposite. We should be working with our inner selves in order to create what we want externally. So it's important that we sit with this. And this is how, and for me specifically, and in regards to creating art, this type of dialogue with myself provides me the opportunity to communicate with myself more inwardly, right? And doing it on a consistent basis because I want to create, right? I want to put my ideas on canvas. I want to get the things that are in my mind and my soul and my spirit into this, earth plane. But, doing that on a consistent basis also helps me communicate the other thoughts and other things that are inside of me, and that are not necessarily connected to art, but just connected to the type of life I want to create, the type of things that I want to see, the type of things that I want to do, and helps me actualize those things because of the fact that I continuously have this dialogue with my inner self, and with that comes to our word consistency, having that routine, having that consistent routine of going inward in order to produce something outwardly, in order to produce something externally. Yeah, so I'm gonna just
as we continue. Now the
Sounds like we
all
have
right, I'm good.
technical difficulty. We're back.
Yeah, no, it was cool. I was unmuting myself and then also trying to read what Zakia wrote in the chat at the same time.
Well, Omari, that's where the admin comes
Yeah,
in.
right.
Yeah.
Man, I was just interested. I was interested.
Yeah. Actually, I like that that break came in naturally because this is a great time you can ask some questions to the community about that inner talk and get some feedback on that too. So I'll read what Zakia said for everyone. And Zakia says, yes, our voice in our heads is often very different than what other people hear when we speak. When we hear our voice recorded, sometimes we don't even recognize ourselves. I've always found that to be curious. And go ahead, you can respond to that because
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. Absolutely. It's interesting, because of the fact that, we, I don't want to say put up this a facade because it's not necessarily a facade all the time, but we have this expectation of what we think that people want to see from us a lot of times, and then we put that out there, but not necessarily even understanding or knowing that, our spirits are like, nah, like, that's not it, or like if this is what you want to do, then this is the other direction that we can go with it. But I say that to say that, like I said earlier, like I sound to myself totally different from what my ears hear as opposed to what I produce externally or what I sound like, externally when I'm being recorded, and that's, again, that's kind of, the spirit's telling me that, regardless of what I think, I need to be comfortable with what is, and work in that respect, in that regard. Yeah.
Mari, again, I know you're reading the chat.
John, can you thank you. Can you do that for me, please?
I got you, man. Anything comes in there, I got you. Go ahead. Just, keep it flowing, and we got you. We're here to support you as I do.
And it looks like Teresa has her hand up as well.
Okay, awesome. Go ahead,
Yes,
Teresa.
hi. I just wanted to say, I never noticed this. This is so amazing. When I was just being quiet and kept on saying the word consistency, it was like I just keep on hearing the word consistency just in my head. Consistency. So I just want to tell you for just giving me that word, because that's something that I really need to just focus on, just being consistent. And I just keep the whole time you talk, I just keep on hearing the word consistency. And I never know that. I never really did that, to hear just be quiet and just say a word within my head like that, and just really be aware of it. It was just so amazing. I just want to thank you for that experience, because it just keep on resident in my head. Keep hearing the word consistency. So there's something that I have to do. I have to continue on. I have to continue on moving on. It's like one thing I know that I do consistently is get up and watch Wake Up, but I just don't need to be a watcher, but I also need to be a doer of what I need to focus more on being a doer of what I'm learning. So thank you, and I'm complete.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa, for that. It's fun you say that, because just being present in itself and being consistent with your presence is important. It's not necessarily only important for you, but it's important for the community as well, to know that, when they're on, understanding that, you're on as well. And just even if you don't say anything, just seeing your name and seeing, your backdrop, and knowing that you're in the space, and you're doing it on a consistent basis helps somebody else more than you probably even know. With that, for just to kind of transition with that kind of thought process as well. It's important for me, this is what I'm learning in terms of consistency, is that, it's not easy, and this is why I big up Woo Nation, all the time, especially, of course, when we first started, because, being able to be on every day, is not an easy task. It's not easy at all. Because there's so many outside factors that we're dealing with, that can just easily knock us off our blocks. Good things and bad things. Sometimes when, you're consistent with something and then you get the results that you want, you stop because you think, I'm done. I got it. I got what I need, And then also it works in reverse too. You put something out there and you're like, I'm gonna do this on a daily basis, and you do it for 3 days, and then, you stop for the next 7 days and you get upset because you didn't do what you told yourself that you were gonna do, So, with that said, it's important, and I say this to kind of speak to myself as well. It's important to, be comfortable with that, and, not to be too hard on yourself when you feel like you're not on your square the way you essentially feel like you need to be, the way that you thought you were going to be. I was consistently working out every day. I was working out every day I was doing good though. I was doing good for a good almost 10 months, every day I was on it. And this last month, a month of really July, I pretty much just stopped, and I stopped because of the fact that my schedule changed, the life around me changed. So I was getting up early every day, not only because I wanted to work out, but because I knew that if I didn't do it then, it was not going to happen at any point in the day. Because once the kids wake up, I got to get them ready, and then I got to, do my job. And then got to pick them up. We got to cook dinner, you know, like just life happens, you know, and then before I turn around twice, it's 9, 10 o'clock at night. And, you know, so if I don't get it in the morning, I'm not, you know, so that was kind of my driving force more so than even just the working out piece in itself and, you know, getting my body, getting my mind and my spirit connected. But once, you know, I had an opportunity where the kids went down south. When they went down south, you know, my whole schedule changed. And I was like, before they left, I was like, you know, great, I have more time to do the things that I want. And in that plan, you know, working out was there. But did I work out once? No, I didn't. And that's because that's only because of the fact that my schedule shifted, you know, so I was able to wake up later. I was able to do other things. And, you know, doing something so early in the morning or just on a consistent basis in terms of working out, once a certain part of the day kind of came and went, you know, the idea of working out went with it, you know, so it wasn't necessarily because I was being lazy per se, but the shift in schedule, I didn't adjust to the shift in schedule, you know, so being able to be consistent and putting yourself on a schedule is important. You know, it's kind of the most important thing, but also being able to transition and flip and be flexible with that as well is very important too, because of the outside factors that we're all kind of dealing with that just creates those shifts in our, you know, in our mind states. So, you know, thank you for that share, Teresa. I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. You know, but with that, you know, I kind of want to talk to the idea, you know, and this kind of goes back into feeding the soul, right? And the importance of consistently going inward in order to produce these outwardly results. And I use it, and I will talk about it in terms of how I create, you know, but since we were kind of on the subject, this is, you know, it's really a lifestyle practice, you know, more than anything. It's not necessarily just something that artists do or something that I do because I want to be as good of an artist as I can be. It's more of trying to really become the best man I can be, right? And developing those muscles, not just physically, but the spiritual and mental, you know, muscle as well. And in that development, you know, getting in tune or getting all those three aspects in line as well as I can. That all comes with being, you know, consistent, you know, and working at something when specifically, especially at those times where you don't want to work on them and you don't want to be present and you don't want to deal with it, you know, because 9 times out of 10, I'll just go back to working out. When I was working out those days, I didn't want to do it. There wasn't many mornings where I felt like, yes, I'm ready to do this. It was more like, no, why the hell am I doing this to my body? I'm freaking tired and this is going to hurt, you know? But I did it because, again, because I wanted to create a shift in my mind more than anything and use that shift in order to, and transfer that into the other aspects of my life. So I knew if I could wake up and work out every morning, I know that I can wake up and read every morning, right? I know that I can get up and take care of business that I don't like to take care of on a consistent basis. Like I'll do everything around the house. This is me specifically. Like I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll wash the dishes, I'll, you know, take care of the kids like that. I can do that. But one thing that I hate to do is paperwork, right? Anything that comes with, you know, the bills and handling my money correctly and, you know, making phone calls to agencies that I don't want to be on the phone for hours with in order to get a 5-minute question answered. Those are the things that I hate. I can't stand doing those things. But I know that if my body, my mind, and my spirit can get through some of the things that, you know, I do on a consistent basis and do it well, I know that I can shift that same mind state into something that I don't do very well. And, you know, that is the basis of it all. You know, that's the basis of it all, especially with creating. You know, there is, you know, as an artist, there are certain things that you learn, right? And only reason why you learn them was me specifically, because I'm not trained. I'm not a trained artist. So the way that I learned these things are through my experiences and through my mistakes. So before, like, so the picture in the background, this is a picture of my great grandmother and my great grandfather. And my uncle Leo Cardi painted this picture. He painted it in 1966. He painted this picture in 1966. And so of course this picture has been around, you know, shoot, for almost twice as long as I've been around, you know. But I would see this picture and things that he's created and think that, you know, as an artist, just being amazed by it, being amazed by the fact that you can take something that's blank, a blank canvas, and take this magic wand and put some paint on it and then turn it into something that looks like this, right? It was magical. It looks like magic to me. Like, I don't understand how you can get something like that just by using paint in your mind, right? And, you know, as an early artist, I thought that, you know, it was just that, like, you know, you swipe the magic wand, swipe the paintbrush around, and then you create these things. And there's only certain people that can create this type of, this level of work. But what I learned, you know, through experience, and like I said, through research and, you know, really kind of diving into the craft and trying to do my best to understand it, is that what a lot of artists teach is this technique called blocking in. So blocking is basically, and it's also fascinating to me as well, because, you know, I'm a teacher, I teach high school geometry, and blocking in is basically using simple shapes in order to create more dynamic shapes, in order to create certain things that are organic. And I think that I'm gonna talk about it in terms of art, but also I think it's just so important that we kind of take this concept and we use this in our everyday practices in our life, really. So, you know, like I said, blocking in is basically taking simple shapes and then refining those shapes, right? So if I take this shape, right, I'm just going to draw the shape really quickly on the paper and then show you how it kind of develops, right? So this is basically blocking in, right? So I create this piece right here, right? It's a series of, again, simple angular shapes. You know, I got a rectangle here. I got something that almost looks like a 3D box. And then, you know, you take this idea, this concept of going from simple and adding layers to it, you know, and that's what I didn't understand as an early artist, that, you know, this is not something that in my mind or in my eye, like I see defined detail work, right? And this detailed work, and I thought just came from concentrating and working hard in order to establish these details, and then working from those details and creating anything based off of that detailed work. But what it really is taking something that's simple, right, and then adding layers on top of that simple concept. So those layers become a little bit more complex, a little bit more complex, a little bit more complex. Those shapes, we go from angular shapes to curves and organic shapes. They go from, you know, really simple to complex. They go from flat to three-dimensional, you know, and that as an artist is how you build work that looks like this, you know. So you take these simple shapes, and then when you take these simple shapes, then you start creating patterns based off of the shapes. And you go from a little bit simple to a little bit more complex, right? Right, so I get a little bit more complex with it, right? I just create more shapes on top of that.
Bring that up a little closer, Omari.
Yeah, no problem, right? So
Perfect.
So I just take that and go a little bit more complex with it. And then I take more shapes. And this is how, you know, this is how artists end up creating detailed work. And it's all based off, again, it's all based off of going from simple to complex, going from, excuse me, going from angular to more organic, to more curves. And again, you know, like I said, this is something that we kind of is transferable in life. You know, we want to get to our end goal so badly, you know, and what I've noticed is that, you know, it's important to manifest and it's important to have affirmations. You need that, you know, that is something that you need because you have to speak to your inner self and when you create those affirmations, when you create those confirmations, that's your outer self talking to your inner self, right? And then bringing those inwardly things outward, you know, because, you know, we see who we are physically, you know, but that's really just the shell. You know, that's the shell that we live in, right? We speak to our inner self that has a voice that we just heard when we said the word consistency, has the ability to hear, because we heard ourselves say it without actually creating any type of vibration, using our voice, you know, so we know that there's something in there. You know, we know that all things are based off of that. There's nothing that you can create or nothing that you can do without thinking about it first, without putting that thought process into it first. But we get kind of bogged down. We're really just going through the details and trying to get as detailed as possible. And we forget that, you know, it starts from an organic place first. It starts from a simple place first, and then and then transitions into being organic.
So Omari, I wanted to jump in. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
You said so much, and this community is so for what you are saying because we do this what I consider metaphysical work all the time. When you were sharing about starting with simple shapes, a few things came to mind, and I want to encourage the community to think on the level that you're asking us to. So I'm sitting in my dining room, and I'm looking out at my living room, and just thinking about the things that I have, put in it or in them requires me to have a consciousness of depth and space and flow and dimensions, like all of that. I also think about just how I am. When I have a 2-hour block of time to do a workshop, my mind is full. I have so many things I can offer to a group. But what narrows me in is what that group has requested. Let's say, which I'm asked about a lot, they want me to do something around race and equity and stuff like that. So I'm like, I have a 2-hour block of time to speak, and I have to think about when they're going to show up in the space, how I'm going to open up, how I'm going to close. I have to create a container so that I don't create too much content that I don't complete and they don't receive fully a beginning, middle, and end, or too little content that I'm left with 30 extra minutes and we're just staring at screens looking at one another. Mm-hmm. So when I think about what you just shared in reference to starting with a simple concept and then building out on it till it becomes what we envision for ourselves, that's what comes up for me. Like, I'm an artist in several different ways and I have to make adjustments accordingly, but I use all of my artistry to design whatever it is that I need to design, whether it's what I'm going to put in a room or whether I'm going to do in a workshop or even what I'm going to do when I speak in front of audiences. So I would love to invite this community in to talk about what you're saying as it applies to their own lives, because you're speaking about art. You do other things, lesson plans, just different things. But I know that there are people in this space that need what you're talking about so they can recognize and understand that they're creating all the time and they can make choices and generate from this simple space. So what are your thoughts about that, and how do you want to navigate bringing other voices in so we can match with you? That was a question for you, Omari.
Say that one more time, sorry.
Do you want to hear from other?
Of course, yeah, definitely.
All right, awesome. Yeah. So good morning again, family. I'm going to select someone because I know we all have had this experience. Or you can raise your hand if you want to share, but I'll start off just asking if Louise can unmute, if you would. And if Louise is not ready right now in this moment, Abimbola, if you can share what it is that you started out off with simplicity about, and then added more dimensions, like Omari said, and taken that and actually produce something that has, that takes up real time and space, or impacts others and impacts yourself.
Hi, good morning. Happy to be here. Happy to see you, Omari.
I felt the energy. I was like, she gonna pick me. um, that's a deep question. What did I start with? Simplicity, and then added on to be complex? That's the question. Am I correct?
Omari, you framed it so that you started from there, so you can restate the question. I said it, but if you have your own question, you can add.
So basically, we're talking about, the importance of block. Well, in art and artistic terms, it's called blocking in. Taking geometric shapes and turning them into more organic shapes, taking things that are flat, turning them into three-dimensional, because there is a process to creating something that's dynamic, right, and creating something that's detailed. So I guess the question, is when you're creating, or when you are, in your workspace, in your own space, not in your personal life, how do you walk yourself through that process? In terms of taking something that's a thought, that's because the thoughts are complex, right? Taking a complex thought, breaking that complex thought down in order to build it back up in, on this earth plane in reality.
Okay, so I'm not an artist in terms of the way that you are. I mean, doing workshops and Wake Up Everybody has helped me to, draw a little bit here and there, but I'm nowhere near an artist. But I'm gonna relate this to my work life as a school nurse, working with children. I've had to kind of develop how I'm able to impart education onto the children, onto the families, and how do I incorporate my own personal, who I am, my authentic self within that. And I'm gonna say from the time when I started as a school nurse, I've been a nurse for over 25 years, but actually 24 years, but school nurse since 2018. So that was a whole new chapter. So for me, I'm gonna say, just starting bit by bit to say like, okay, this is what the rules are in terms of within my job, but how can I be able to incorporate me within this? And it started out from, okay, just straight there to then kind of embracing who I am and my natural outgoing self and my natural liking to be silly. So I slowly built and built and built on that in terms of the confidence to be like, okay, I can be me within this. I love to speak to people. So being able to incorporate the parents and, make sure I understand them and, relate to the children and just act silly with them so they can be comfortable and feel like I'm a safe space for them. So that's the way I could just relate it in just terms of, and my confidence has been built over the last 3 years to be comfortable within myself, and how I relate to children and the families, as well as the administration, as well as life, and just being exposed to so many of the workshops and the facilitators, because I've been in Wake Up Everybody since March 2020. I've taken a few breaks here and there, but Wake Up Everybody has the facilitators have helped me to dig deep and excavate. And to me, today I'm living my best life due to the work I've done into this community. Still going through a lot of challenges, even within that. But I'm gonna just say for that part, in related to creativity and so forth, because I also have to do classes. I have to teach asthma classes. There's students that I have sometimes that are diabetic students. And I have to use my own creativity at times to be able to relate to them when I'm educating them. So thank you for this. It's kind of, have to try to twist it to my way, but I appreciate the opportunity to share. Thank you. I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank you. And I mean, you said a lot. You said something that kind of resonated with me, and it was, and just in, I mean, this is life, really. It's life stuff. But I'm going to just bring it back to kind of an artistic understanding is that, as an artist, there's certain things that you're taught. Like I said, I'm self-taught pretty much, but when you want to learn and you want to grow, you have to, look towards masters or people who, are mentors and know what they're doing, in the space. So, but you said something that's very important, that, there are rules. There are rules and engagement for everything, right? There's a rules as an artist. There's rules that we have to abide by. In our profession, there are rules in order to keep things, keep things whole and consistent. But we learn these rules, and specifically as an artist, you learn the rules and the techniques, all in order to break them and bend them to your will and how you can use them best for you. So you spoke about the rules that were in, that are established within your school system, and that you have to abide by as a nurse. But at the same time, you learn how to bend and break those rules in order to have that will, have them work for you. And that's a lot of the same thing in terms of looking inwardly and then producing something outwardly, right? There's no way that we can learn something and engage with that learning without having a conversation with ourselves inwardly. And that conversation, because like I said earlier, we are a shell of ourselves, really. This is just the shell, right? But our inward self, our spirit, that's the thing that, we talk to, that we can engage with, that holds all the information. The information isn't even really in our minds. The information is in our spirit. It's in our soul, right? So when our body leaves, when the flesh is gone, the soul is able to transition, and that's how we are able to engage with our ancestors. That's how, they're through lines with things that we do, from generation to generation, and certain things that you can just pick up and do well because of the fact that, your grandfather did that, or your great grandfather did that, and great great grandmother did that, so it's important that, we, again, like you said, we use those tools that we have in order to create those relationships, as a nurse, in order to engage with the children, in order to engage with the parents, and in order to create a better community. We learn the rules and break them and bend them to our will to make sure that we use them the way we need to, in a way that's going to work best for you and the people who, you engage with on a consistent basis in the space and the community. So perfect. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you, Omari.
We have another share, another hand raised, and that's Amal. Would like to share?
Yeah, you know what? I'm like you. When you started out, you said, excuse me, good morning, family. Sometimes I get so well directed that I forget to be cordial. So anyway, yeah, I never thought about art as starting out simple and then building on. I've always wondered, why can't I do that? How did they get those angles and what have you? And then to apply it to life is interesting. For myself, there are many occasions where I had to break stuff down and then build up on it. When I was dancing, and some of the dance moves, the African dance move may be a little complicated. So you start out with just a simple move, and then you add the nuances, and then you add your head. And so I can see where you're coming from with all that. And even when I started putting together a conversation for Wu, I sat here meditating and asked, where do I start? Because there's so much to share. Where do I start? And I had to start simple. What is it that you want them to know? And then I would just write that on paper. And I think of a statement, okay, I'll say that somewhere. And started just brain dumping, just throwing everything out on paper. And then start organizing the thinking and organizing stuff. So I never related art to just life and what we do in life. But thank you for that. And I'm complete.
Most definitely. Thank you for that share. When we thank you for that share, definitely. Because it brings something that we all know, like we all know that. And like I said, this is all transferable. We use this in dance and art and profession and life. Like, you can't create anything that's going to last without having that foundation, right? There is nothing that you can create that will last without building a strong foundation on it, right? The house that we live in, you know, the foundation has to be solid in order for it to be able to be built structurally. And then, you know, once that structure is built, then we add the details to it. Then we make these things our own. You know, so it's the same thing. Like I said, you know, this is what blocking it is. Blocking in is. Blocking in is creating that foundation using those simple geometric shapes, two-dimensional shapes in order to create 3D shapes, taking something that's flat and then turning it into something that is three-dimensional, or taking something that's angular and turning it into something that is organic or has curves in it, and that building process in order to get from that simple to complex. Same thing, like I said, as a foundation. The foundation is, if you don't build a strong foundation, nothing can be created off of that. And, you know, the reason why, excuse me, it's so important, or the reason that we we all know that it's important, but the reason what throws us off from that is because of the fact that that is the most monotonous part. Like, that's the part that nobody wants to do. It's boring, you know, just in terms of art. Like, when you're building and you're trying to turn and engage in those shapes and make them the way that you want to, you just really want to get to the detail. For me, I just want to paint. I just want to get to the painting part and watching this blank canvas turn into things that have color and movement and throwing my emotions into that, you know. But building that foundation is the most boring part, but it's the most important, you know, just in terms of creating. Like, I like to do portrait pieces, you know. I like to do pieces of people. I do landscapes every once in a while, very rarely, but my thing is creating portraits, right? But so when I'm building these shapes and I'm creating these people, especially when I'm doing it by just, you know, by hand, sometimes I'll take a projector, depending on how much time I have and how detailed it is. I'll take a projector just to get the lines right. But sometimes, you know, you don't have that luxury, and you just need to build with your hand. But in both instances, you know, that is the most monotonous, boring part of it, because there's no color involved. There's no real free form or flow involved. Like, I'm not, you know, getting creative at that point. It's structural, it's foundational. But if you don't do that and you try to build on top of that, in terms of your artwork, is going to look crazy. Like, I can't create a portrait of somebody, not have the foundation right, the structural, just the angles and proportions correct, and assume that it's going to happen at the end, because it never does that. Regardless of how well I blend my colors, regardless of how cool I make the background look, if the person doesn't look like the person, or if the nose is too long or too big, or the cheeks are too crazy, or the eyes are, it's not going to be what it's supposed to be, you know, because of the fact that I did not deal with the foundational. I did not deal with the structural part in the beginning, right? I didn't put the work in the beginning in order to make something that I want, you know, at the end. So again, I was just going to say one thing. So again, you know, this is to bring it back in terms of, you know, feeding the soul. It's just that, you know, it's just that, you know, getting to the nuances is important, and that's what we want to do. We all want the finished product. We all want to see the detailed work, but, you know, you have to build that structure and that foundation in order to get there.
This is so powerful, Omari, on so many different levels. And I love that you brought in these structures, these foundations as an artist into the space that we can look at it in our everyday lives. Like, these skills are transferable. And, you know, because we're taught to compartmentalize professions in such a, I don't know what word to use. To me, it's debilitating sometimes how we're taught to, this belongs here, this is not a science, this is. It just limits our ability to add more dimensions to what we produce in the world and how we live. But I want to read some of the comments that were shared on Facebook and then also in the Zoom space. So Z said that she related to Safia because Safia was talking about like how she manages her work in the world. And she said, I was thinking about when I was developing the clown character that I performed in the 90s. I actually had a dream of me performing, and that dream helped me to manifest it because I had already seen what it would be before I ever knew it was something I wanted to do. And Omari, I see you nodding. So sometimes your ideas for artistry come through means of like dreams, or like you get the ideas from some other space or from a spiritual space. So is that why you're nodding, or you just like, oh, I see. I just want to make sure.
Oh, definitely. All like the ideas that I have, I can't even say they come from me, honestly.
Exactly.
They come from me. Like there's something that kind of pops in, or, like you said, something happens in one space, in one aspect of, something that has nothing to do with art, but it creates this vision, that, it kind of just eats at you until you engage with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say before that spirit has taken over. You mentioned Shamani, you mentioned your spirit in general, how you're manifesting an art piece and it's being downloads. I'm going to call it downloaded into you. And you're just a vessel producing and obeying. And that can be hard for people because we're taught to operate from the brain matter so much, we can miss the spirit and how it can teach and guide too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Chantel said, actually Chantel dropped this in for Amadou, who's now in the space too. We can consider our main objectives first, then we can think about specific activities. I thought of my teaching as well as my interaction with my granddaughter. And Amadou, I also consider what you do as a doula as artistry too. Like that requires a way of tuning in, structure and organization, a body of knowledge, you listening to spirit as well as tapping into what you've been taught as a doula from other doulas, and then also technically when you went to school to practice to learn and then practice. Chantel said for herself, I never thought of myself as an artist, but I love to build out projects and systems. My legal pad and whiteboard are my canvases. I guess I can take something simple and expand it to something big and beautiful from this mind of mine. So last one I'll read, Omari, and then you can carry on or respond to what has been written. It's up to you. Interesting fact of life. We often try to skip the building of a strong foundation and jump to the solutions and outcomes when what we truly need to do is respect the process. So lots to pull from. And then just a reminder that we're 3 minutes from 8. So I just wanted to put that out there too for you, Omari.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's I want to say that when we are doing this blocking in process, just in our lives in general, it brings up a lot of anxieties. It can bring up a lot of anxieties, especially when we're blocking in or when we're trying to produce something that we're not comfortable with producing, having conversations that we're not comfortable with having, creating something that we've never really tried before, doing something that we've never really tried before. And the reason why it's uncomfortable is because, and this is happens all the time to me. And I'm sure it does to you guys as well. When we're creating something or when we want to do some things, and we're trying to build this foundation, we're trying to, actualize them, blocking in forces you to, it forces you to deal with these things that produce these core issues, right? It makes you, like, I'm building my foundation, I'm creating my piece, and I don't like drawing hands, right? But if I'm gonna be creating a person, and the hands are gonna be in it, at certain times I used to just try to hide the hands, like do something where the hand won't be on the canvas itself, but eventually you're going to have to learn and, face those issues head on, right? And blocking in, it makes you have to deal with those core issues or those core anxieties that you, excuse me, that you have, and that's why certain things that we want get blocked, right? We all want to make $1 million, right? We all want that. We all want to make sure that everybody in our family is good. We all want to make sure that our kids are good and that we have all the things that we want and they're able to do all the things that we want. And we work every day in order to try to do those things. But whenever we're confronted with something, like specifically for me, like I'm in a point in my life where I'm transitioning from, doing the 9 to 5 and having somebody give me a check on a weekly basis to producing my own foundation and producing my own way to generate income, through art. Because I feel like at this point in my life, I shouldn't have a ceiling. I shouldn't have to wait. I should be able to get paid every day, every minute, really, as opposed to every 2 weeks. So in order to do so, I've got to change my life. I've got to change my lifestyle. I've got to change my way of thinking, and it works, and I'm doing it and I'm doing it. And then as soon as something happens that has to force me to take 2 steps back, sometimes the want is to just say, you know what, let me just go back to what I was doing before because it worked, But that's only reason why you would want to do that, or I would want to do that, is because I know it works, because I've been there before, so it's safe, So that's what blocking in forces you to do. It forces you to really go head on and face, and contact the issues that you have, in yourself in order to push past that, to produce what you want. Yeah. So with that said, it is 8:00 right now. So I'm not sure if you guys still do this, but thank you for everybody who, is here in the space. If you have to go, I appreciate you all for being here and tuning in and engaging with me as well as with the community. But of course, I hope that we all are able to stay until 8:30 at the very least, so that we can kind of get through the rest of the presentation, as well as take some questions and answers, and to again do the culmination wrap up that we do for the Woo Nation. So with that said, did I do it right?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Okay, awesome.
We dropped in contact information so folks can be in touch. They can also give if they so choose, even though they're leaving the space and not experiencing the fullness of it. We've been blessed by what you've shared thus far. So it was perfect. We have a hand raised. I don't know if you want to move in another direction or
Definitely.
take a comment. So Veronica, come on down.
Good morning. This is such an interesting conversation, because as a quilter, and you talked about blocking, how boring the process is. And for me, it's just more than boring, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Because when I decide that I want to do a piece, it takes me like maybe weeks to decide on the color, the shape, the size. And I feel like I get angry with myself for taking so long, because in my head, I see what I want, but that blocking process gets me stuck. The planning of the colors, just making it right, just wanting it to be perfect. And it's so difficult to get out of my head that perfection. And so how do you get out of your head, Omari? Like, that you want this piece, and that you have a vision of what you want, but you don't know exactly which color, which texture, do you experience that? And how do you get out of it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know what? Yeah, that's the test, right? That's the hardest part, is really figuring out what it is. So I've been working on this project that's called the juxtaposition of emotions, right? And so it's really kind of for me, it's how our natural emotions are connected to geometry, and in shapes, lines, angles, and how those shapes, lines, and angles create more dynamic shapes, create spherical shapes, create a 360-degree, all these things that we don't necessarily think of, but are just so in tuned and in line with our relationships with people. And when I know what I want, I know exactly what my 8 pieces are going to be. I know them, but I've sat on this thing for months and months just because of the fact that I don't exactly know how I want to present it. And it's more than anything, it's me being in my own head. So I had a conversation with another artist about, when I'm creating this, because I'm working on, I painted this piece of my grandmother probably like 3 months ago. And I want to represent, I want to talk about circles in this piece. So my idea at first was to do pointillism. And for those who don't know what pointillism is, basically literally creating points on the canvas or dots on the canvas until you've created, shapes and dimension and things of that nature. And I wanted to do that in order to, because those points are basically circles, right? And they represent 360 degrees, which represents the family in my mind, right? Or just have the completion of life. But of course, when I created the image, I said, you know what, I'm gonna paint. And I just painted her. And I loved the way it came out, but it wasn't what I told myself I was gonna do, one. And then it puts me in this position where it's like, all right, this is cool, but how can I take this piece and still represent what I want, So I just sat on it. And I was talking to another artist and like, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. And then, what they told me was that whatever you do, you did it. And this is not for this is for you. And in presenting it to other people, that's fine. But it's whatever you want to create is what you created. And people can, take that information or take what you want people to see in your execution. They can see it for what you did, but they can also, which always happens as well, they see it for whatever and however it is used in their own lives, right? And how they can relate to it themselves. So like with that conversation, it really kind of now that in terms of your question, it made me, I realized that, sometimes you just got to let go and just do it. Because when I think of, when I have an image in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be crazy. This is going to be dope. And then I try to do it. Sometimes I'm just not there yet. And I can't take exactly what's in my brain and put it out on paper. But what I can do is do as well as I can and just do what I know that I can do. And then, have the community engage with it the way they need to. Because it's going to be dope. I know whatever you create is going to be dope, and nobody knows exactly what's in your mind. So it's not like they're like, oh, you try to do this, but this came out. Nobody knows that, because it's something that's in your brain, so just being comfortable with, just doing it. And then whatever comes out, that's great. And then doing it again and doing it again and doing it again until, you grow. And that's really what it is. So I hope that answers your question.
You did, because you made me think about the fact that I'm not trying to please anybody but myself. And that's what came out of your answer for me. And I appreciate that, because when I start to think about how I'm going to help somebody else or make somebody else feel good about what I'm doing. But you're saying make myself feel good about what I'm doing and just leave it at that. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Definitely. No problem, Veronica. Thank you. Also too, though, like, it's about making yourself feel good with what you're doing. And if you feel good about it, it will transfer. It'll transfer,
Thank you.
No problem.
God bless you. You're great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask a question. Because it's interesting. What I was thinking about with you, Shamari, and Veronica, was in applying the conversation where it's nerve-wracking to block it and to get the right colors. When you spill that over into the rest of your life, where do you find that you do that in life, period? And I think you did say, Shamari, that there are some things, aspects that you don't like to deal with, and that is drudgery. So if we're using this metaphor for our life, inside of our life, and the question for you as well, Veronica, where is it in life that is something that you need to do is drudgery? And then if you're settling for less than whatever it is that you envision, then what is that saying? You know, do you get where I'm going with that?
Of course, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, you know what? So first of all, we're gonna, everybody from we got about 20 minutes left. Can everybody just please call me Shamari for the rest of this Zoom call? I appreciate it, because Shamani is definitely on my neck all the time. So we might as well just put the two together. So Shamari is me until 8:30 to 9 o'clock. But you know, how I use that in my life is, so I'll just talk about, you know, my kids. You know, it's a learning process. You know, like I have an older son who's 14 years old now. When he was 3, me and his mother, I don't want to say we split, but I wasn't in the house anymore, you know, and just being a young man, didn't realize the impact of me not being there on a daily basis is, or has had, on his life and also my life. You know, we have a great relationship, but at the same time, and what me raising my children now has taught me that there's nothing you cannot duplicate, or there's nothing like being there on a daily basis, you know, being there every day. So, you know, so with that said, you know, there are things that I'm learning right now, just kind of on the fly. And, you know, I'm trying to be present. You know, I want to be engaged, and I want them to build and grow. And, you know, I know that there needs to be work that's done, you know, intentional work that's done in order to do that, you know. So, you know, working on, you know, letters and numbers with my daughter on a daily basis, making sure that, you know, the kids understand what sharing is, and, you know, not trying to get too much, you know, TV time in, and tablet time in is, you know, it's part of the intentionality, but shit is hard, you know. So sometimes they're on the tablet for 5 hours. I'm sorry. Sometimes, you know, that's just what it is. You know, it is what it is. And I'm trying to get better, you know, and I'm trying to still also incorporate certain things, but at the same time, I know that I can't do everything. You know, I can't satisfy their needs as well as my needs and still be a sane person, you know. So, you know, with that said, it's a growing process, you know. So there are things that I know if I do, if I can say, yo, I'm gonna do these 5 things between the 2 of them today, and get those 5 things done. If they get done at 12 o'clock, then yo, sometimes you know, I just got to choke up the rest of the day, you know. But what I do know though is that if I can get those things in on a daily basis, those 5 things, they'll know what the routine is. I know what the routine is. So then I can add a 6th, then I can add an 8th, then I can add a 10th, you know. Sorry for shaking the screen, but I can build on that, you know. So again, same thing, you know, blocking and creating that foundation. I know that if I create this structure that they know what the routine is and I know the routine is, it makes our lives a lot easier. And then I can grow from that and then create or take something that's in my mind at that point and what I think my kids should be at, or what level I feel like they should be at, and actually actualize it, you know. But it has to be, you have to start somewhere, you know. You have to start somewhere and be consistent with where you start at. I'm complete. That's it. So Veronica, do you want to kind of piggyback or?
Well, you're right, and well, I'm 66 years old, And so as I've gone through my life, I realized, yes, you have to have consistency. You have to get up in the morning, every morning. And there's so many things that are routine, that are boring, that you don't want to do, but that you have to do in order to create balance in your life. And so that blocking process is that getting up every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting your children ready for school, making breakfast, and then the rest of the day, all the things don't go perfectly, but the blocking process helped to make things go from point A to point Z, even though there was confusion between J and Z.
Definitely.
Because you created consistency between A and H. And so, yes, everything is not perfect. But yet, and I'm not going to say but, I'm going to say yet, we use that blocking, which you've taught us today, or we recognize blocking in our lives, and it has helped me to get to 66. And it hasn't been perfect.
Can I just say something? Can I follow that up a little bit?
Yes.
Because I'm hearing the have to, the blocking I don't like, I'm trying to do this. And can I just say that to get both of you off the hook, it's just a noticing. It's just noticing, wow, when I do this, so where do I do this in my life? That you can always change your mind about stuff that's mundane. You can always say, thank you, Spirit, because I had the opportunity to do this, and I do this every day, and I've contributed this much to my children. If it's not enough, you've got the rest of it. Don't. I'm just saying it's noticing. It's a metaphor, not an area to beat yourself up. It's just looking. That's all. And there's no have to in anything, because you don't have to do any of that. The only thing you really have to do is breathe to keep yourself alive. You're really subconsciously choosing to do these things because that's the space you want to be in. So be happy about it. Be grateful about it. Be laughing about it. Here I go again. Okay, another day. All right, Spirit, what you got for me today? And just let life let you use life. Don't let life use you. Use you. It's just a space to look. That's all. And thank you.
Is that not thinking the artist way? That, yes, you can let things go from J to Z.
Okay.
But the blocking process is the blocking process. Is that I don't want to be right and I don't want to be wrong. But the process of A to H helped me to be free from H to Z, because I got up this morning and that was consistent.
Okay.
And that, yes, I don't have to get up, but my spirit woke me up. I got up, and every morning I get up, which helped me to get to the next stage. And we could take out the consistency, but nevertheless, it becomes consistent.
Definitely.
And I was reading what Shani was saying, that there are spiritual practices you can put in there to ease all of that.
Oh yeah.
And as I said, it was just a pointing out. That's all.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
That we can change it from the mundane to the joy.
Absolutely. And put a little color in there too. What do you say? I called your name wrong before, didn't I? Shamari?
Yeah, no, that's it.
That's it?
Shamari, yeah.
That's not.
Yeah, just hey, if that color don't work, get another color that's brighter. Okay, well, let me do that.
Yes, and I have to say right now that Shamari is showing through Omari. So sometimes you look at a person and you say, "Oh, that's Omari," but I'm seeing Shamari, and that's what.
Oh my God, I got it wrong again.
She keeps pushing herself out there.
She sure does. I accept.
Yes. And you know what? One other thing I have to say is that she gave up the mundane to the divine.
Definitely.
That's all.
Shawnee, you wanted to say something?
Yes.
I wanted to tell them to give you back your session. Veronica going off.
And his name.
You know, changing his name, taking over his session. What the hell?
And Omari's like, yep, that's my name.
But you know, I wanted to go back and say really quickly that my share was not about your interpretation, Mama Mao. I was actually saying that there are some things, and Omari, you can speak to this, that require an absolute structure. There's no getting around it. I don't want my surgeon saying, you know, oh, what the hell? You know, I want you to do the damn operation the way it is designed for you to do the operation. And I know sometimes when I don't listen to spirit, like with Wake Up, I followed what was given to me to the letter. And here we are a year plus later doing what we do in the way that we do it with modifications over time. But I followed instructions as they were given, and it makes a difference. So I don't see, Omari, when I think about, I'll say this and then I'll be quiet. When I see the portrait behind you, if who did it? Your uncle?
Yeah, Leo Cardi.
Oh, Uncle Cardi. So, or Cousin Cardi. If he would have made your great-great-grandfather's head bigger and took up the whole damn canvas and grandma's arm was in it, there'd be something wrong with that. You have to follow scale, and whether you know mathematics or not, you have to work with the canvas that you are given. Some things can't be freestyled or be willy-nilly. You have to honor structure, rituals, systems, and things like that, science. So I just wanted to put that out there, that
definitely
it can be both things, but we have to be mindful of what we're working with, what we're dealing with, to make whatever adjustments we need to make or not. So there you go.
I was going to say the same as well. You know, it's so yes, we don't have to do these things, but if you, and it's really kind of rooted in change and growth. If you want to grow, there's certain things you just have to do. Like you can't get around it. You have to do these things. And Veronica brought up a good point, and it kind of comes back to what I was saying earlier. You know, my process, you know, pretty much from, I want to say maybe from September to August was, not even August, really, June was, my process was waking up every day at 5, like I had to get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in order to be able to read. And then once 6 o'clock came along, in order for me to work out. So if I didn't do those things, then they wouldn't happen. Like I had to, regardless of what I did the night before, I had to get up at 5 o'clock. If I wanted to grow, if I wanted to change, if I wanted to really engage in this practice of this mind, body, spirit training, I had to get up at 5 in order to read. I had to work out from 6 to 7 in order for me to then start my day, you know? And the thing about that is that I've done it so much that at this point, now I know that the school year is coming back, and I know that I'm going to have to be getting up earlier in order to get the kids ready. My body and my mind is already there. So I don't have to necessarily force myself to get up at 5 anymore. I might not get up at 5, I might get up at 6, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not necessarily working out, but what I am doing is taking that opportunity to paint, right? So I'm using the same kind of blueprint, and I'm engaging with it in order to grow certain things in my life. If I want to be an artist, I have to paint. I've got to create. I've got to practice, right? But I can't do that while trying to do something that's comfortable, right? I can't do that waking up at 9 o'clock. I can't, because if I try to do that, the kids are going to be up by 9:30, and then it's shot. And in order for me to really do it to the best of my abilities, me waiting until they go to sleep at 9, 10, 11 o'clock, regardless of whatever it is, and trying to do it then, like I'm not at my best, right? So I know for me, I'm a morning person. So in order for me to be at my best, I need to do what's going to fulfill me in the morning time. And the only way that's created is through the structure that I created, you know, a year ago. The process in which I do it, or what I do within that time frame, might change, but the intentionality is the same, right? I'm doing this in order to grow. I'm building out this foundation in order to build upon it, with the result of, or the intention to build my mind, body, and my spirit. So with that said, Shawnee kind of spoke about, how we kind of get these visions of where they come from. Sometimes they come from dreams, sometimes they come from, daydreaming, sometimes they come from other people, and in this case, like me and Shawnee had a conversation. Actually, I can't even remember what the conversation was about and how these specific words came up, but I'm sure I showed her some artwork or something like that. And, she came up with this phrase of organic geometry. Was it? I think it was organic geometry, something along those lines. But the words stuck with me. So, and with what she said made me want to create something around that idea, right? So this didn't necessarily come from me. This came from a conversation that I had with Shawnee, then that turned into something that I started to produce myself, right? So when I heard organic geometry, we were talking about it, it made me really think about, who we are as people, sacred geometry. That is definitely, so I want to talk about that as well, but I don't know if we have enough time. But definitely sacred geometry is so important because all those things come from the foundation of the motherland. It comes from the foundation of Africa, right? Regardless of what I have to teach in school, I was going to say we all know, we all don't know, but geometry comes from, our ancestors, from our African ancestors and the practices that they did in order to create, pyramids and, 50-foot sculptures and all types of wild things that we still don't know how they did. That all comes from geometry and the understanding of sacred geometry and things like the Fibonacci rule and stuff like that. So with that conversation that we had, I wanted to create a series of pieces that kind of really help understand like what the foundation is, and the foundation is Africa. And then on top of, after that, it is really the woman, right? The woman, the Black woman has really been the foundation of society in itself, being able to create life, being able to, create the family unit and the family structure, and then, everybody in that unit to grow and then reproduce and do that over generations of time, and sometimes we forget that. So I wanted to create a project in which we're celebrating Black women, our African ancestry, and tying them kind of together. So I started doing a series that is based around that specifically, and women who have African tattoos, because of the fact that, we're taught and we're forced to try to disconnect with our culture in so many different ways. But for some reason, just innately, we always gravitate towards our roots because we understand and we know, regardless of even if we accept it, that, Africa is the foundation, the Black woman is the foundation, and, that land is where everything is created. So like I said, I'm going to show you, I got a couple more minutes, I got 3 minutes. So I'm going to show you one piece that I'm working on that I started. And one of the main reasons why I want to show you too is because, and this is not done. So, and then also just so that you guys kind of get an idea of what I want to do with it, is the background I want to tie into African fabrics, just the patterns that, Africans created with these African garments and kente cloths. They're just, and even this, like I put this on today, not even thinking that, this, the patterns, right? It's all geometric shapes. It's all geometric shapes that are built from simple shapes in order to create complex patterns. And all of these patterns that you see, if you really look at these fabrics and go to the African store and really look at these fabrics, they're all rooted in geometry. They're all rooted around circles, squares, triangles, all of these angular shapes in order to create these dynamic patterns, right? So that's what the background for these pieces will be. So what I'm doing is all of the women are going to be in black and white. And the reason why I'm doing black and white is because I want to identify or show that you know, the shades of Black, right? Because there's a lot of people don't understand that there are shades of Black. And once you start building off these shades of Black, they create, you know, a color palette that is amazing. And it's the same thing with our African roots and our ancestries, right? So we're all shades of Black, right? But we kind of get taught that, you know, we are all different when essentially we're really all the same, right? So what this is so one, everybody, all the people who are, all the women who will be in the pieces will be in Black and shades of Black, but also we'll have, like I said, some African tattoos, essentially rooted, right? And this is where, you know, the energy comes from. So that's why, you know, in this particular case, the energy or the color that's resonating is going to be yellow, because that is the energy that is, you know, our African ancestry. And then essentially that energy from inward will then create the background to what this piece is going to be. You know, so thank you, Shawnee, for, you know, giving me the idea, and just in terms of just having conversation, you know, just regular conversation, what can be created and what we take away from regular conversation, you know, things that I might say that I'm just talking and might forget. It might be something that, you know, creates something in your own life that, you know, you can build upon and grow with. So with that said, you know, as we were talking and playing around, I just kind of, you know, it's a doodle. It's the start of something, but, you know, just using those simple geometric shapes and building upon those simple geometric shapes in order to create 3-dimension, in order to create, go from angular to circular or structural or organic, really, is the foundation of art, but it's also, you know, how we need to really think about how we're moving around in this life, you know, and it all starts from the foundation. In terms of what I just showed you, the foundation is the motherland, but in terms of what we've been discussing today, the foundation is our inner, right? You know, speaking to our spirit, because that is what has been here for eternity, you know, and then really using that spirit to create what type of whatever existence we want externally, because it can happen. And that's the only way it happens is if we engage and have more conversations with ourselves and really do our due diligence to normalize sitting with ourselves, communicating with ourselves without actually talking, without actually, you know, putting that energy outwardly before we do it inwardly. So with that said, I am complete. It is 8:31.
Awesome. And we didn't have a problem with you going further.
Okay, awesome.
So we say, you haven't heard this maybe lately, this is not NBC, ABC, like we dictate how the time goes and flows and wake up. But you have been given so many accolades for what you just shown us in that one piece. I thought you were going to bust out the Subway series, and look at you with the behind the scenes doing this. I was like, wait a minute, you're holding out. Oh my God. So you got wows and beautifuls and fantastics based on the art that you just shared. Love that you're doing that. There'll be huge levels of conversation because of that. And all the different variations that you bring to the canvas. It's just so inspiring. Let's see. And Auntie said, that's dope, nephew. So Auntie Joyce said that.
Thank you, Auntie Joyce.
Catherine asked a question. I answered it, but you may have something to say about it too. But she was like, where did the Black come from? Label self a color. Where did that come from? And my response is that it comes from, it's already existing in the universe. The sun going down, the moon coming up, you know, outer space is black. I'm like, that existed already. It's what we have done to it to make it small and low vibrational. But what do you say about it, Omari, as far as the existence of the color Black and how we use it?
Yeah, so, and if you guys could put into the chat, that would be awesome. There was a I guess you can call it a documentary. It's called The Absence of Light. And it's about Black artists specifically. Well, I don't want to say specifically from this 70s, and because it wasn't that, it's really Black artists throughout time. And the thing with Black art is that, or the absence of light, which creates Black, you know, or in essentially Black is it is the only color, really. Black is the only color, and when you add light to it, then you know you get this you get dynamics, or different colors and different color palettes. But I say all that to say there's this documentary called The Absence of Light, which is about Black artists in the turn of the century, in which they didn't have spaces and places in order to, you know, display their artworks, or didn't have the means in order to create. So again, like we talked about earlier with soul food, you know, being able to just given scraps and be able to, you know, produce masterpieces based off of the minimal, the minimal resources that we had in order to engage with art, you know. So it's important to understand that, you know, Black in itself, again, it's the absence of light, but, you know, it is the foundation of everything, you know. So that is kind of, in my mind, where Black comes from. And the documentary is super dope because it really goes and taps into and shows, you know, all the work that Black artists have done and have created, you know. And what's so important about it is that they created this work understanding and knowing that they might never have a place to display, right? So you're not creating work in order to get accolades for it. You're creating this work because you are speaking inwardly in order to produce something outwardly that's going to be satisfying specifically for you, and then in the hopes that you can transition, or in the hopes that people can see this and then also gain some inspiration from it. You know, so I don't even know if that answers the question, but at the same time, I think that, you know, I think that is what Black is, right? You know, creating one in the absence of you know, accolades, right? Or acceptance, creating in the darkness, you know, and knowing that you're doing it inwardly and you're doing it for yourself. And but also Black in itself is the essential, like it is the foundational color of all things, because without Black, you cannot have any other color.
Beautiful. Yes, yes, yes. So a lot. Let's see. Catherine said in response to what we just talked about, labeling self a color, our skin is not actually Black. We are not the absence of light. We are labeled Black because, and she's still asking the question. And once again, my answer is still the same. You know, man, particularly white men, created this difference in, well, looked and saw a difference and saw it as a low vibration and labeled it Black. It's actually, now that I think about what Omari said, it's actually the highest compliment. So it came out of there, what they meant for evil, Spirit meant for good. So Black is all that I am. I love that. I have that in me. And you know, there's opportunity and possibility when we start from Blackness, because what has been said by him and others in the chat is that all color comes from that. And it's true. You drop an ounce of Blackness in some whiteness and it becomes Blackness. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
so Sage said, powerful concept rooted in ancient wisdom, going within as the foundation, a foundation that is eternal. This concept reinforces being instead of doing. And we truly appreciate you, brother Shamari. So you got your own spiritual name now, Shamari. All right, and then Coach Cheryl said, on the color spectrum, Black is the presence of all. The colors, and white is the absence of them. And Veronica said that she loved that Cheryl said that. And Shane said, Black is the evidence of divine presence. You better work, Shane. Thank you, thank you. And Cheryl agreed. And Shane said, yes, Black is a racial identity, is a social construct, and so it also race. So yeah, so thank you for that, Catherine. I hope this is helpful and understanding where that comes from. Omari, this was so phenomenal. So much came up and out of this. This is like food and a formula for life and living and for producing in life, a beautiful formula. And I'm like, now you have helped me to look at the mundane as part of my spiritual practice. even though I resisted, I love the beginnings of stuff. I love the architecture of it, but some of the other mundane things, even what you mentioned around doing the bills and taking care of the administrative aspects of things, making calls. I resist some of that too, but I also know that that gives me life in a different way because it makes my life flow so I can do the things I absolutely love. And it also helps me generate money because I don't invoice sometimes for the things that I'm going to be paid for, and that's problematic. It stops flow. So thank you for what you shared, all of it. Let's see where we're gonna go. John Carl, if you're ready with the slides, you can take over that part of it and we can get complete.
Really quick, if anybody has, because I'm in this creative process of really building this series, and I wanted to encompass all people, all Black women. So if you do have any African tattoos, if you do have any tattoos of Africa, please, let's have a conversation. Again, John will share all my contact information, and then we can go from there.
Question about it, Omari. What if there's a vision of a tattoo for the body and not actual tattoo? Is that possible? You absolutely need that on as part of the physical.
I mean, I would physically like it, if there is a vision, and I don't know, we'll see. If there is a vision and we can do it, then, let's do it. But I just don't want to get bogged down with actually having to create a vision as well as, create the work, But again, if you're open to it, to have the conversation, I'm open to it as well.
Yeah, awesome. Because I'm trying to figure out what my next tattoo is. I don't know if it's Africa. However, I love that you're doing this. And I know so many women that I can direct your way that have tattoos that are African centered or literally of Africa. So I'm on that now that I know. Thank you, son. All right, so John Carl, you ready?
And again, so I'm sorry, we had a conversation earlier. John, you want me to do this? We're good. I'm gonna do this part. I'm sorry. Yeah, so this is my contact information, please, and thank you. Please write this down, take a screenshot, take a picture, engage. Let's continue this conversation. So my Facebook contact, you can contact me on Artful Living, ARTFULLIVING Artful Living BK on Facebook. On Instagram, my Instagram name that I engage with the most is the first one. It is Muzz. M_U_Z, but you can also contact me through Brooklynite Muzz. But again, I use the first one more often. And of course, email is, I guess, the most universal. So if you do not have Instagram, if you do not have Facebook, which I know all of us on here have Facebook and are a part of the Woo Nation on Facebook, the easiest way, again, the most universal way is through email, which is omari.maynard@gmail.com, first name dot last name @gmail.com. And the love offering. So again, if you enjoyed yourself today, and I'm sure you have, and this morning, again, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. Thank you so much for being here and being present and being consistent. It really epitomizes what community is. But the bills don't pay themselves, right? And these kids got to eat. So if you have any donations or love offerings that you want to provide me, that would be excellent and much appreciated. You can contact Soul Leadership Development through Zelle or QuickPay, or soulleadershipdevelopment@gmail.com, or you can Cash App Spirit of a Woman, $, Spirit of a Woman on Cash App. And the code that you can use is 396OM. That is 396OM. And again, this is the beginning of Soul Food Week. I hope that, I started off this week well, because it is only going to go up from here. So if you can, please join us on Monday, August 23rd. That is tomorrow. And in the kitchen with Black Rican Vegan. That is Leah Blunt. the Black Rican Vegan. And then also on Tuesday, August 25th, Nourishing the Colors of Your Energy, which will be facilitated by Angele. And again, all new members, I appreciate you. I hope that you enjoyed your session today and that, it will help, help bring you back here on a regular basis. So again, thank you, family and friends. Again. Thank you, Facebook group, for being here as well. And also, of course, all the Zoom family, Woo Nation, again, I love you all. New members, please come back. We want to build this community up to where it's supposed to be, because there's just some amazing content on here and that's provided on a daily basis, which is something that is most difficult and never seen. And again, so the schedule for Woo Nation, in order to be here and be present, is live workshops are on Sundays, on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. And then also on Mondays and Wednesdays are the shorter sessions. They're from 7 a.m. to 7:30. Live Zoom links are always available, as well as a live stream on Facebook. And again, if you would like alerts in order to identify or to know or be reminded when these workshops are, just text Woo Nation to 74121. That's 74121. And of course, there is nothing better than providing or having some representation on our outerly selves, right? We want to bring our inward outward, and in order to bring it outward, we got to have merch, right? So swag yourself up, get the mask, get the cup, get the hoodie, get the vest, get whatever you got, and buy it all. So get it all at bit.ly/wooswag. That's bit.ly/wooswag, WUESWAG. And thank you again. Stay in touch. Go ahead, John. You got it.
Thank you so much, Omari. Wonderful session, brother. Wonderful session. Art is life. I'm an artist myself. And art is life. And thank you for sharing all the many ways that we express that in art connects with, even if you didn't see yourself as an artist, it connects. So art is life, my brother. Family, thank you for staying in touch. Thank you for being here this morning, and we ask you to stay in touch. You can register with us, bit.ly/wake up movement. You can find us on Facebook, bit.ly/Woo community, and that is for our group, not our page. If you're just viewing us on our page right now, go to find us at bit.ly/Woo community for our private group. On Instagram, you can find us at Wake Up Everybody Virtual, and on YouTube, bit.ly/Woo on YouTube. And our email address, info.wakeupseries@gmail.com. Share your comments and your feedback. Thank you so much. And now we will go into stop sharing, go into gallery view, and welcome Omari to the Love Shower. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Great work, John.
Thank you, Omari.
Great work,
This
Omari.
is a great
Thank
session.
you, Omari.
Thank you. I gotta contact you for a portrait.
Thank you, Omari.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you, Omari. It was
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Very wonderful.
Great way to start the week. Thank you.
Love you.
Thank
That's wonderful.
What I gotta do. La, 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 la.
Family, love you all. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Omari.
Thank you for the knowledge, Omari. Thank you very much. This was awesome.
Thank you.
so much.
It was so long, Omari.
It was
Thank
awesome.
you,
Thank you very
Omari.
much.
Continue to grow.
Very, very much. It was
You were
beautiful.
very good.
Thank you, Sean, and everyone who gave input. It was really great.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank
have a
you.
great day. Love you all. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings. Thank you. Thank you, Omari.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
wonderful.
Such breathtaking
Great
work.
session.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you, Omari.
God bless you too.
Words can't express.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was great.